Hi, my name is Min-Jae Lee, and I'm the Chief Privacy Officer and VP of Legal at Quantcast. And we're here to talk about prioritizing privacy to enhance consumer experiences and increase brand trust. 10 years ago, you probably weren't thinking about privacy. We had the concept of big data, but you were thinking about how to market it, how to make it work for you, not about how to protect it. There was so much data being sold and bought and resold, but it all happened behind the scenes, and the average consumer knew very little about it. Today, we live in a different world with a consumer that's quite aware. Today, a majority of Americans believe their online and offline activities are being tracked and monitored by companies and the government with some regularity. It is such a common condition of modern life that roughly 6 in 10 US adults say that they do not think it is possible to go through daily life without having data collected about them by companies or the government. Additionally, a majority of the public are not confident that corporations are good stewards of the data they collect. For example, 79% of Americans say they are not too confident or not at all confident that companies will admit mistakes and take responsibility if they misuse or compromise personal information. And 69% report having the same lack of confidence that firms will use their personal information in ways they will be comfortable with. So where do we find ourselves now? That distrust has led to an increase in regulation like GDPR and CCPA. There's been more and more scrutiny on the industry over time, and it's led to an increased focus on privacy throughout the industry. All departments are now dedicated to privacy. More regulations are coming down the pipe, both in the US and Europe, and the consumer point of view is now central. Some of the regulations themselves call for more transparency about why an ad was targeted to a user and by whom, for example. But regulators understand only the tip of the iceberg. The new focus on privacy doesn't mean that all personalization and data practices are going away. Data used in advertising can be good. When used responsibly and intentionally, consumer data can be used for targeted advertising, and a really well-targeted ad can enhance the content it sits within. And finding the right audiences for brands and advertisers can lead to better CPMs for publishers, which can mean the difference between users being served an endless litany of irrelevant ads or a small number of tightly curated, highly relevant ads that can enhance your content. Good content will attract consumers, and brands want those audiences. So how do you get there? Providing substantive disclosures and meaningful choice are key. As a brand, you have the power to create a trusting relationship with your consumers by being transparent. The nice thing about being in this space is that we are all users of the internet, so we all get to experience what's out there. Always start by putting your user hat on first and asking yourselves, how do I want to be treated? How do I want my data to be treated? Do I want to read a 100-page privacy policy full of legalese? Do I want my data to be sold to unknown parties with no obligations to secure it? If you don't like it, chances are a consumer won't either. Disclosures have come a long way too. For example, Apple's data nutrition labels are a good example of how much the look and feel of some disclosures have changed over time, and the range of possibilities out there when it comes to disclosures and how to convey information to users. After all, the goal of all this is to give consumers more relevant advertising and a better experience. One of the things we have to remember is that people have a lot of choices right now. Take over-the-top TV, for example. Users have so many options, and it's so easy to switch between providers that if brands don't give consumers a meaningful choice and respect how they're using their information in a transparent way, users won't just vote with their feet and dollars. They will vote with their remote control and choose somewhere else to go. Now, if you're ready to make privacy a bigger priority in your organization, you can start today by doing what's right now, not once it's the law. There's already several state privacy bills coming down the pike, and we've heard rumblings about the possibility of even more, or possibly even federal legislation. The latter could be particularly welcome if it can offer a way to unify and align what's a fragmented landscape of privacy today. Most of these regulations likely have common intentions and underlying principles, but it takes a lot for companies to comply with individual laws. So a common framework could go a long way. In either case, there's a lot we can do with the capabilities we have today to improve privacy. Technology will always move faster than regulation. Remembering the role of privacy in the advertising value exchange. Most marketers are keen to use tools to better personalize the way they connect with consumers, but that can often mean collecting more data about them. Many brands cross the line in terms of privacy out of what they feel are good intentions. When personalization is handled with privacy protection in the foreground, brands stand a better chance of striking a balance between personalization and overreach. Most users who want their privacy respected aren't looking to have their data locked in a box. They're willing to have their data be part of a fair and relevant value exchange. They're choosing publishers who have content that is relevant in their lives and who will treat them fairly. We have to keep reminding ourselves and our teams that it's about what consumers want, not about what we want. Going back to our user hat, isn't what we want in the end to receive a smaller number of really relevant ads instead of a lot of irrelevant ones, and a place where our data isn't sold and resold to parties unknown? And think beyond a banner ad. Have you ever tried this exercise? Count the number of websites you visit in a day and how many times you click a button that verifies you'll accept a brand's use of cookies. Although technically this demonstrates a consent-based approach to marketing, it obviously has its trade-offs. Consent fatigue is a real thing. We need to find better ways to do that than those banners, which I really see as version 1 or part of an evolution. It's better than having no notice whatsoever, but it's an onus on the industry and us as professionals to innovate on how we do those things. Now, none of this is easy, even for those of us who are dedicated to thinking about privacy, but it doesn't take a title to advocate on behalf of consumers and the appropriate use of their personal information. Everyone in a company has some responsibility for privacy. Whether your company has a chief privacy officer or not, you can always think like the chief user, in the sense that you keep the user's point of view front of mind. Historically, the ad tech industry hasn't done a great job of keeping that as its focus. There's an urgency to rebuild that trust, and it's doable as long as we keep the user at the center of our thoughts and policies. Thank you.